But I'm looking forward to peeling back the layers, and thank you so much for reaching out to the program. I love these kind of cold calls. I love all the cats that are out there swinging and doing the music. So thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for receiving me so quickly. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So let's dive into I want to get into your career. I want to get into the latest album, Memories, but I want to begin our journey with this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives,
Yeah.
especially musicians. How did you get through that COVID era, and how did it change the way that you approach life and music today?
Yeah. Wow. People don't realize that when COVID hit, I was a lead in a show called Vegas, the Show at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. So I was doing spot dates as a recording artist, but I had I had a day gig, if you will. I was in a show that's it's a nostalgic show about classic Hollywood, so I got to sing some of the big Sammy Davis numbers. It was it was a cool, steady show, and then the pandemic hit and we thought it was going to be a week off. Of course, we know that that prolonged into something that was unimaginable, right? I have a picture of me in the middle of Hollywood, sorry, Las Vegas Boulevard during the pandemic, and it was me and no one on the street. I mean, that will probably, hopefully, in our lifetime, never happen again. I can't imagine that ever happened prior, me and no one, just buildings behind me on the road in Las Vegas. I mean, it was just an astounding image. And it 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 had a huge effect on. Now, here's the thing, my Matters of the Heart album I made right leading up to the pandemic, and I released it like I was trying to time the release of the album on the back end of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Well, remember when we shut down and then we opened up and then we shut down again?
Yep.
That's when I released the album.
Wow.
So I didn't get the full effect of that release because we shut down again.
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, who could have predicted that? I mean, that was a tough blow because I waited and waited and waited. So, um, after the pandemic, man, it was really tough for a lot of musicians. It was really tough to kind of ramp back up. I'm still dealing with people now who are fulfilling obligations from the pandemic. I mean, that is kind of like, I don't know if they're saying that, but I mean, if they're booking a year or two out in advance, depending on their, calendar, you're still seeing people trying to fulfill some of those obligations. So we're coming back. I would say we're back, but the residual effects of it have been quite tremendous.
It's amazing you say that because I remember all the interviews that I had, and people had itineraries that lasted years and years down the line, and it all
Yeah.
melted away in the matter of days. So you have to make that back up. I mean, the venues are going to make it back up. Everybody wants to make. So it's amazing as far away as that is in the rearview mirror now, it's still all apart. And I think it's going to take a long time for us to really peel back all of those layers and figure out what exactly happened and how it affected everybody, you know? Um,
Yeah, a lot of people quit the business too.
yeah.
A lot of people quit the business, and they say that show business is about resilience and longevity. Can you stick it out through the tough periods? And for me, I was fortunate to be able to navigate through it all, but some of my friends have just quit the business.
Yeah. So you had mentioned you're in Boise, Idaho. You had mentioned Vegas and LA and other geographical spots. Let's go to your absolute beginnings. Where were
Yeah.
you born and raised, and how did this music life begin?
Great question. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. And so I went to a boys' school that had an incredible curriculum, not only just academics, arts, and sports. It's a boys' school called University School. So I went there from pretty much through K through 12. And I also went to a urban Mennonite church. My mom, she came from the South, but she joined an urban Mennonite church. So we had the beauty of a gospel choir and the hymns. And there was a gentleman, Mr. Hughes, who saw that I had a classical timbre to my voice, and he suggested that I audition for the Cleveland Opera Children's Chorus and the Cleveland Orchestra Children's Chorus as a boy soprano. That worked out. That was the beginning of my formal training in classical voice. I became when my voice changed, I became a singing angel. Traveled overseas for the first time, 12, 13 years old, in a choral group. So learned, about choral singing and all of that. I mean, being in the operas was incredible. I was in like three operas. And then I got into Interlochen Arts Academy as a junior in high school. Interlochen is one of the, most prestigious arts academies. It's a school, but also a summer camp. So I was in the summer camps for 2 years. And then one of my teachers was Beverly Rinaldi, who was teaching at the Cleveland Institute of Music. And I became actually a young artist at the Cleveland Institute of Music my freshman year. So my freshman year of high school, I was going to school half a day, the other half at the conservatory, and I was performing and learning from Beverly Rinaldi, my first formal vocal teacher, who was also teaching at Interlochen. So it all kind of connects, right? Interlochen, Cleveland Institute of Music, decided to go there my freshman year of college, conservatory. You're not just learning operatic repertoire, you're learning early American repertoire, right? All the way from the Negro spiritual repertoire. A lot of black singers sing the spirituals, Paul Robeson and William Warfield. And then, of course, you stumble upon Gershwin and Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hart, right? And Aaron Copland, and all of these composers become a part of your curriculum in the classical sphere. A lot of people don't necessarily, realize that. And so then, of course, I stumble upon Sammy Davis. I'm like, oh, who is this guy? And then it's, oh, wow, here's Harry Belafonte. Oh, here's Sinatra. Oh, wow, here's Joe Williams. And then it just expands, expands, expands. And then I became this guy in the theater and musical theater world where I was the guy who could sing, the classical stuff. I could sing the legit Broadway stuff, and then I could sing the crooner stuff. Because I learned that music. I knew those songs, and so I was doing a show called Words by Ira Gershwin, and a guy said, "You need to start recording this music." So that's how it kind of all started. But I had a really, really great foundation in my school, and my parents made sure they continued to invest in my opportunities as a young artist. So, at Interlochen, I was performing at a very high level with geniuses and in high school. So I knew at that moment that I had what it took to be successful. It was just, would I stay on course.
So, what was the first live show you saw that blew you away, that set some, whether conscious or subconscious foundations that have been a part of the way that you approach the stage?
Well, I mean, really, it was watching Gerald Hughes in my church sing the hymns. He was a classical trained professional singer, and he was the one that noticed that I had this gift, and he said, I really don't want him to start training professionally because I don't want him in the hands of the wrong vocal coach. He goes, but get him into these choirs so that he can start understanding. And so that, and then imagine, I'm 12 years old and I'm in the wings of the Cleveland Opera and I'm watching these performers, command these audiences. And I said, oh man, this is incredible. So I was singing in church, but then, I was also, I think my first play was Charlotte's Web as Charlotte in like the fifth grade. And then I became Snoopy and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I think I played animals first. Uh, and so that was the beginning of me just having the opportunity. And then at Interlochen, I mean, think about it. Here I am, a junior in high school, and I'm seeing the Beach Boys live. I see Aretha Franklin live. I see I'm seeing Itzhak Perlman live. I mean, you can't put a price on seeing that level of performance, when you're a young kid coming up. And so I kind of understood kind of what it took to be a professional artist. It's a lot of work, a lot of dedication. And I got to also study with the great Vladimir Chernov, the great Russian baritone. So, even though I'm a crooner, I am trained in bel canto, and that's why I tell people like, Tony Bennett was trained in bel canto. Sinatra didn't have Tony Bennett chops. I mean, Sinatra had a great sound, and he was very unique, and he understood the importance of vocal technique. But Tony Bennett actually exemplified it in his sound and in his approach to vocal, and I'm cut from that cloth.
So clearly, early on, music was going to be the path that you were going to take. And as you start becoming an entertainer, a musician, you have these dreams, I think, of what your career is going to be. What was the difference between the dream you had of what your career was going to be like and then actually living it? What was the area in between those two?
Well, I think, when I graduated from high school and I went to conservatory my freshman year, I left the conservatory after a semester. And that was a very pivotal moment because I felt that I was ready to actually work in the business. So I moved to Los Angeles, and I worked quickly. I 6 months after moving to Los Angeles, I became a soloist with the Los Angeles Jubilee Singers, singing spirituals across the country, across the world. I did two tours overseas, and I just started auditioning. I started, like just showing up and auditioning for things. Um, and a few years into that experience, I had my first real letdown where I just kind of like I didn't get something I really really wanted. It was a Broadway show, didn't get it. I was devastated, and I moved back home to Cleveland. And when I moved back home to Cleveland, I actually sort of like just grounded myself and I started working in a theater. And I sort of rose to the cream of the crop. For 2 years, I just did theater and musicals in Cleveland at the Caramel House, which is one of the first Black community theaters in the country outside of the Negro Ensemble in New York City. And that gave me the foundation to have the guts and the stamina to say, okay, I'm going to go to New York City. And I had an aunt who was living in Harlem, and even before I got to New York, a friend of mine got me onto a cruise ship for 6 months. I was the lead singer on a cruise ship, and that's when I started really leaning into this music because on the cruise ship, I met two people that kind of changed my life. One was a great xylophonist by the name of Ian Finkel. Ian Finkel is probably one of the greatest xylophonists, in the business. He comes from kind of like that vaudeville era, and he was an arranger. So he saw me as a lead singer in this show and said, "Hey, kid, you're a headliner. Let me start arranging your music. I live in New York City." I also met Freddie Cole, the great Freddie Cole, Nat King Cole's younger brother. And I got to hang out with him for 2 weeks on this ship and his musicians. And they too were like, hey, you should really think about, recording this music. And again, at that time, I was singing in a production show, singing a couple of these songs. I sounded kind of square, but I could tell I had talent because I was the lead singer, right? Uh, and Ian said to me, he said, look, I know you're going back to Cleveland after this 6 months. He said, but if you save your money, I'll write your first show. I said, because I'm planning to move to New York City. He said, great. I'll write your first show and I'll get you an agent for the ships. And that's exactly what I did. After the 6 months, I went back to Cleveland. I worked out my plan. I had an aunt living in Harlem. I said, can I come live with you? She said, yeah. I got to New York. I enrolled my show. And that's when I started um, the course of being uh, a, a headliner in parallel to what I was doing in theater and the theater arts and musical theater and stuff. But
So let me ask you this. What's the best thing about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day? What pushes you to evolve and to be the best that you can be?
Uh, looking up to the greats that did it before me, that really is. I mean, right here on my wall, I got Ernie Andrews, I got Herb Jeffries, and I got Barbara Morrison, right? I see, they were two of them were my mentors. Um, you know, man, that's such a deep question because when you look at the lives of people like Harry Belafonte, right, and you look at the these artists that I'm so inspired by, it was so much more than the music, right? Even if you look at, like the life of James Brown and so many of these artists, I mean, they were a part of a struggle too. So the music was a way to express themselves, but when you really get into the understanding of what their lives were like, what it was like for Louis Armstrong, what was behind the gregarious smile, right? There's a lot of deep shit, man, that goes, behind the scenes of the music business and those who controlled the music business. The way the mob controlled the music business and the way they extorted artists and their masters, and man, it's heavy, you know. And then they're going into places that are restrictive, and you got civil rights issues going on, and you're playing to separated audiences. I mean, we can't even imagine that the level of oppression that they were dealing with. And so music was more than just getting up on the stage and singing. It was advocating for something deeper, for freedom, for expression. It was a healing mechanism, and they took that on their shoulders, and they use art to make a difference. So for me, it's standing on that legacy, particularly in this music, and that's another layer of discussion that we can get to when it comes to the Great American Songbook, which is a marginalized genre. And it's an elephant that sits in the room that a lot of people don't want to deal with. There's a lot of layers to that.
So, speaking of the music, your latest album, Memories Unleashed, came out this year. And when I look at your catalog of your albums, what is your aim when you make each successive album? Is it an evolution of your vernacular of exploring the American songbook? Is it a snapshot in time? How do you philosophically go into the studio to make a new album?
Well, there's so many songs in my catalog that I love and adore. It's like, getting an opportunity to record them all. That's a challenge, right? I mean, there's so many even in my shows that I haven't recorded yet. So that was Freddie Cole used to say, learn a standard a day and that'll set you free. Um, and so I've always continued to mine the crates of singers and songs and material that I have an affinity toward. It's like a song has to speak to you, it has to tell your story, it has to resonate. So for me, depending on where I am in that life process, kind of helps inform, like, what I want to talk about, what my soul is calling out to share. Um, and so it's been and then it's a collaboration with my producer, right? Songs that I think that the producer thinks will be good for me, that fit my voice. There's a couple of, like, Jimmy McHugh songs. I'm friends with Lee Newman, the grandson of Jimmy McHugh, and I've recorded two Jimmy McHugh songs. They just fit my voice. I like his songs. They fit me. So I will continue to explore his catalog. Um, it's been my next record is going to be a blues album, right? And so I wanted my first 3 to 4 records to really cement myself in the Great American Songbook. That was very intentional because in the past, we've had singers that can and did sing the Great American Songbook, but were marginalized into blues and the jazz genre, right? So though blues and jazz is the underpinning of the Great American Songbook, it is its own thing, right? And so there are not many African American. I may be one of the only recording as consistently that as I am to living today as a African American performer in the Great American Songbook. And I wanted that to be bona fide. I wanted it to be unequivocal. Wanted it to be cemented as the foundation of my work. Now, if I go and do a blues record, they can say, okay, he sings the blues, and I can do that, but you can't take away what I've done and what the jazz pundits have said about what I do and the level of that I do it. And I'll always come back to that because I truly believe that we need to be represented in the Great American Songbook genre because, it's not just Michael Feinstein. I'm sorry. And I love Michael. He's great. It's not just Bublé. He's great. I mean, I'm talking about male singers, right? Um, Even if you look at Cecile McLaurin Salvant and the latest singer. I mean, if you really think about it, Gregory Porter, we are not given the title of Great American Songbook. It's somehow reserved for others.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You've mentioned the elders and the legends and the luminaries that have taught you, that have helped you find your way. Based on all of that, based on your experience, what do you try to teach younger players that you get on the bandstand with? What do you want them to understand about this art form, about this craft?
It's America's classical music.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. And even if it's not necessarily popularized in this moment, it will come back. It's timeless music. It's like Mozart's never gone out of style. Beethoven's never gone out of style, right? It's just how we interpret the music. It is not, easy to be an interpreter of the Great American Songbook. One of the problems that this genre has had is the hacks, right? The impersonators, the wannabe Sinatras, right? The guys and gals that get out there and they're not necessarily bringing anything fresh to the arrangements, to the genres. Look, it's not easy to do. I mean, you have to bring something so unique to your delivery. You have to understand the art of phrasing, the art of interpretation, the art of communicating. There's so many layers to why someone would want to listen to Elijah Rock sing this standard and not go in here and listen to the the Harry Connick version, right? What am I bringing to it that is unique enough for you to want to listen to my version? So that takes a deep degree of self-assurance and awareness of self, right? That what I do is enough. And they always say this: you need to study the greats so intensely. Like if you were to say to me, Elijah, how would Tony sing this song, right? Just say a standard. I could tell you how Tony might do it. I could tell you how Sinatra might phrase that. I could tell you how Vic Damone might approach it. I could tell you how Arthur Prysock might approach it, how Ernie Andrews might approach, how Joe Williams might approach it, how Steve Lawrence might approach it, how Nat King Cole might approach. Man, my depth, and then I say to Joe, this is how I would do it. Right. So my depth of knowledge and my reference is so deep. That's how you find your own sound. And everybody will tell you this. You don't find your own sound by you find your own sound by the default of how intensely you study those who have mastered the craft before you. And then out of it comes your originality. If you don't do, you could tell an artist who hasn't done that because it, you can't you don't feel the originality, and there's only one pathway to that originality, in my opinion, is you have to understand all those other layers and have so many references in your consciousness to then find your sound within that. And then people say, oh, okay, they can understand, it's like the gumbo has been baked in,
Yeah.
and then your recipe comes out.
So why do you love this art form we call jazz?
Because it's a free expressive art form. Like, one of my favorite moments on the bandstand is watching the interludes, or watching the uh when the artists get to really just do their thing and improvise. Like, I love that part of it because every night is going to be something different. And when you're working with incredible musicians, man, you're experiencing that magic real time, and and even when they're accompanying you, they may give you a nuance that you didn't predict, that's not on the record. Jazz, in my opinion, man, jazz and blues is it is the most free, expressive music, and that's why I could not go down the path of opera.
Yeah.
Because though I had that foundation, I thought to myself, man, I can't be on a stage every night and be so restrictive to the specificity of how I need to articulate my art.
So, Elijah, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone on the bandstand, everybody on the business end, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a person that does his best to lead with authenticity, man. I mean, it's like, it's funny because my wife said to me, I just sold out a show at the Sapphire Room, and I was really grateful. 95% of the audience were new people. And my wife said to me, she goes, your vulnerable moments have such residual effects. And uh, I think people see me as like a kind guy, a good guy, laid back guy, honest guy. But I think that what I am a striving for is more and more authenticity. And I'm finding that when I am more authentic, meaning more vulnerable, when I'm more vulnerable live, because what happens is, as an entertainer, man, you become good at stuff, right? You become good at the showmanship. You become good at all those things, right? It's easy to be kind of lean on that because you're always going to give a good show. People are always going to walk out and say, "Hey, man, this guy's is entertaining. Wow, he's polished." But what I'm learning more and more as I mature is that stuff is there. That stuff isn't gonna go anywhere. The real stuff is the vulnerable moments where people see beyond the great voice or the swing, and they see into a vulnerability that connects with their hearts and their spirits. And yeah, actually, in the last show, she goes, "Did you feel something different?" I said, "I feel like I'm deepening vulnerability." And when it's like when you do that, when you open yourself up and you sort of intend, like you set the intention to be more vulnerable, and it happens, and then you become aware of it, you go, oh wow. Like, you can't plan those moments, but you can plan the intention.
Yep.
I plan to be more vulnerable with my audience, more real with my audience. And that is what I believe is helping me to expand my audience and and make me more endeared.
If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one show, who are you going to go see? Where are you going?
I'm going back to see Joe Williams and Basie.
I like it.
Yeah, you gotta, I mean, I would love to see Ellington too. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I would love to see Ellington live, but Basie, and people overstate, like, do you think Sinatra's comeback would have been as great if he didn't have Basie behind him?
No,
No,
no way.
no way. I mean, if you're a good singer, like he was a great singer, right?
Yeah.
But even a good singer with Basie is great.
Oh, it's Count Basie. Are you kidding? I mean, he was the one. That was it.
It was it.
I mean, they came to Kansas City in April on International Jazz Day. The orchestra is still going. The echo of his influence still wins Grammys, still packs houses. I mean, that's it. He was the guy.
Man, I mean, it's to and have you ever heard Arthur Prysock's record with Basie?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And he was one that was overlooked, man.
I know.
He was the truth, man.
He
He was the
was.
truth. And that's why I appreciate you having these conversations because um this is what people don't realize when I play audiences, because a lot of the audiences that favor this music, as you know, I mean, I don't want to make a generalization here, but a lot of white folks love this music.
Yeah.
Black folks love it too. They're just not as exposed to it, in my opinion, as much. And But it's blues and it's soul, so it's gonna connect with anybody, right? But I can tell you when I'm in audiences that are predominantly Black, they will say, "Go on, Arthur." They remember
Yeah.
the older audiences. They remember these guys. They remember Arthur Price Sock and Billy Eckstein.
Yeah.
I'm friends with Billy Eckstein's daughter. They remember they remember these guys. And by the way, Sinatra was listening to these guys. They were
Oh,
his friends,
oh yeah.
right? I mean, they were his pals.
Yeah.
Um, and I just would like the buyers, right? Because sometimes buyers they kind of they book what they think is kind of predictable because maybe they don't understand the history that you know, right? And that I know. They don't get how this will actually, translate and go over. But if buyers really lean into this history, they will develop new audiences that will have an appreciation and audiences that are just waiting for artists to reconnect them with some of these artists that they knew. They just don't get opportunities for younger artists to pay homage. It's like when what's her name? The young jazz singer, when she pays an homage to Sarah Vaughan, people go, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
I mean, she sounds, I'm talking about. She sounds like
Yeah.
that's her aunt,
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. Is it Samara?
Samara Joy.
Samara Joy. I just caught her in November in Kansas City, and it was just it was magical. I interviewed her a few years before she won the Grammys, and just to see where she's come, and just yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
So Memories Unleashed is the new album, came out in 2025. If anybody wants to get that album, previous material, catch you live, any of the good business, where do they go?
ElijahRock.com. Elijah Rock just Elijah Rock on Instagram, Elijah Rock on Facebook. I have a bunch of shows that aren't aren't on the site that are coming. Yeah, we're about to kind of drop about 5, 6 shows on my calendar, so I'll be moving around. Love to come to Kansas City.
We would love to have you here.
Where
Absolutely.
where I mean, maybe you guys can give me some insight on where, but I would love to come. I mean, Kansas City has a heart,
That's it.
has a lot of soul in Kansas City. I feel like I would do very well in
Dude, you would
Kansas.
do very well. I will hook you up when we get off here. Yeah, I'll send you over some some compass needles, so to speak. So
Yeah,
we'll get that
thank you.
going. Man,
I
hey, thank
appreciate
you so much again for reaching out. This has been an absolute joy, and hopefully we meet in person in Kansas City. Maybe we
We're
can
gonna
break
do it.
bread over some barbecue.
Yeah,
We
we're
I'm,
gonna.
I'm here
Oh,
for it.
Kansas City barbecue. I just want to say this to you and your viewers, man. What you do is great, right? And your show is fantastic. And the fact that you care about this music and you care about new artists, you're discovering new artists. As much as I've done in my career, people are still discovering me, and that for me is a joy because it's like, okay, you know, uh, enjoy these moments of discovery, right, with new people. And so, you are the one curating, artists in this genre who have great potential to do beautiful things. So I just want to celebrate you and what you're doing, and I wish you a great 2026, bro.
Thank you. Same to you. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. The finest people on this planet, I will always say it, are jazz cats. I love you guys. You have a spirit. It shines. It's pure artistry. I love it. It's an honor to be able to do this. So thank you so much. And
Thank
be,
you.
before you.
Neon Jazz.